What's going on you beautiful people? Today we're going to talk about consumables, how you can profit off them. Is it a good passive income? The two best ways to do it. We're going to talk about provisioning consumables and alchemy consumables, what you should be making, how to profit off of it, where you should be selling these, how to price them, which things in ESO cause the value to go up, which thing causes their value to go down, and how to know and how to be prepared for those instances. So step one, we're going to talk about the two main versions of actual, we'll call ourselves, opportunistic chefs. And that is basically, you go to a cooking fire, and if you're like me, you just kind of been passively accruing recipes, you've been passively accruing things, and you can see what you're missing. Because there's nothing worse than when you try to get into provisioning selling. So say I was not just missing one ingredient for all of these. See, I didn't have any red meat, lemon, frost mirum, or perfect roe. Even though the first three items of those are fairly cheap and you only need one of them, you're going to exponentially start to eat into your profit margins just because you've not accrued those passively by doing dailies, by opening compartments and things. So that's why, like, if you're going to get into it, it's great to start from a point and from a recipe price point from what you need and having most of the ingredients. Because obviously, I don't have, a shit ton of perfect roe, just to throw around. But at least I know that if I were to get 210 perfect roe, I could make 840 clockwork citrus fillet. So now and then I'll be able to, then I'll just need a little bit of frost mirum on top of that. So it gives me a good idea of where I need to go from there. And then same with drinks. And then you can kind of see, like, okay, these witches recipes are actually both very good. The Witch Mother's brew is pretty good. I have a lot of Perez juice. Well, I have a chunk of Perez juice. I'll probably go through that. If I wanted to actually profit a decent margin off this, I would need to do it. Or I would need to definitely invest in more juice. Same with Citric Ambrosia. I'm going to need probably some more Perez juice and perfect roe. And, kind of looking from there. Now, say you don't have any of these recipes. You're like, I want to get into this, and I don't know where to start. And it's a difficult place to start. Because if you want to sell consumables, you basically have to be in Mournhold. Or at least Elden Root or Wayrest at the minimum, because most people are not going to shop around for their consumables. So if you're looking at a way to get into consumables, it's that same thing where I tell you guys, always go and see what's selling. Because it's hard to know. Like, did I skip something? Clockwork, oh, it's a chair. Oops. It's always good to just jump in and see what's selling, who's buying what. This is early in the morning. This is not during an event time. There's nothing special going on. Oh, see here, here's some of these. This will be important for later. Not to foreshadow, but you could see, in the last hour, and from this guild, no one's bought anything consumable-wise. And I would say the consumable market currently is not where it needs to be. But I don't want you to feel sad, because we're going to talk about when that consumable market is going to see an uptick. And being prepared for that is going to be great for you. Okay, so here, Ghastly Eyeball Bowls. Now, why that's valuable is people use that for their parsing. That was purchased 3 hours ago, a stack of 50. It's a pretty common thing to sell. You can see a bunch of Perfect Roe is selling for 16K. So Perfect Roe has kind of regained a lot of its value and kind of continues to go up on that. So not a whole lot of consumables are selling. Now, why is that? Now, I like to think of a couple different checks. So it's like, if this is happening, check. If this is happening, check. Now, what's going on right in ESO? Nothing. Where it's the 30th, we have the Blackwood event. We got the next month, we're going to have the Halloween event. What are people really doing in the meantime? There's the new dungeons and such. That's kind of cool. It's pretty neato burrito. But there's nothing that says, like, oh, right now I need to be buying Sugar Skulls, except that the Battlegrounds is infinitely deathmatch. And that has actually caused the Bewitched Sugar Scale price to actually rise slightly. About 2 weeks ago, this was 500 gold. Now it's 750 gold. Why? Because this is commonly used for both mag and stam and tanky characters for Battlegrounds and in Cyrodiil as a whole. So whenever you see an uptick in PvP, such as people going, hell yeah, I'll play Battlegrounds and just do deathmatch, you're going to see the price of this kind of rebound a little bit. Now let's also talk about stacking. How you stack this is going to determine how much of these you sell. Because what's interesting is if I were to switch this to total, stack of 5 is now, ekes out a little bit more. And if I wanted to buy another stack of 5, I don't even have actually another stack of 5 on here. Why is that? And that is because that some people, myself included, buy in low stacks. This is a stack of 5 for 1,000 each, whereas you have a stack of 100 for 550 or 546 gold each. Most people buy in small stacks. That's just plain and simple. You see that a lot with the Artem takeaway broths and the pickled fish bowls, which I think are actually some of the most popular. Let's see if I can spell the word pickled. So this is probably the thing that sells in the small stack size, but is probably this is probably the consumable to invest in my opinion. Because I think that fishing has just kind of crept up in value as a gold making method, and this is something that makes it easier to fish, basically. Higher quality, faster, boom. Easy thing, add it to your fishing repertoire. That's why it's so popular. And I don't know for those of you who were available during the last double XP event, but I watched Perfect Row go from 14k to 30k, and I watched the shitty XP potions go from 2.5k gold to 10k gold each. Why? Because everyone wants to level up. Everyone is now a champion. We're all champions. We have this new elegant screen that I actually rarely update, as you can tell. So that means that every XP event now, there is an opportunity for every player from level 3 to level 3000 to gain XP. Why that's relevant to you is that it used to be, a double XP event, half the player base is 810. That's probably generous. Like a third of the player base is level 810. They're not going to be grinding XP. Everyone will be grinding XP except for a fair few when this next Halloween event starts. And that means that those items that I just showed you, people who actually want to utilize that to fish, also the people that are going to start utilizing the XP, they're going to be buying those things. That's your Sigic Ambrosias, that's your Sugar Skulls. Well, not Sugar Skulls, just more so because there'll be more player bases. So whenever there's Sugar Skulls and some of the other consumables, like your Artam takeaway broths and your other kind of generic haunches, like that just kind of goes up as more players are playing. Whereas less players are kind of playing, say it's like a bit of a downswing, no like specific event that people are kind of going into, then those things start to kind of, teeter off. So how do you know when to go? And it's simple. So Bounties of Blackwood, the 30th. That means the price of consumables will go up the 30th. Mark my words. As soon as the Halloween event starts, that's when it's going to be the opportune time to be a consumable seller, especially XP potions. That is the time to invest in XP potions. And then if you're not in Deshaun, or Mournhold specifically, or Wayrest or Eldenroot, you can sell those XP potions in zone chat. Just go to zones that you're going to see a high rate of people XP farming, such as going over to Craglorn, and you can honestly even sit outside Skyreach and just put in, I'm selling these 10k each, 5k each, whatever the kind of common market is at that point. Because that's your target audience. Same with what happened in the last event, which is where, obviously there was double drops from Hellraw Citadel, there was double drops from VAA. So what was happening is that people were going into Craglorn, and they were sitting in the town here, and they were just advertising what they were selling. Like, hey, I'm selling XP potions. Hey, I'm selling trial pots, which is just potions, basically. And people were buying them because, one, you're right there, so it's not like you have to go to a guild trader or anything. And you need them. If you're going to do trials, generally you need consumable, unless you're really, balling it. And you need potions. So it's really quite a simple margin there for you. So you go there. Especially if you're not wanting to pay the weekly fees. But these guys are still dueling. Good for them. Now let's switch gears a little bit to if you wanted to be an active seller. So this is more of a passive income. You kind of wait for events. You kind of, you throw it all in at that point. Let's say you're hungry. You yourself are like, I want to make profit constantly. And that's going to be difficult for you. But I have some recommendations. One, don't always be the lowest listed thing. And try to pick items such as the Arteum pickled fishbowl that have value consistently. Because things like other consumables, they will ebb and flow. Even for which sugar skulls, they will drop, they will come up, they will drop again. Try to pick something consistent like this because it's used by people to fish. It's generally easier to do, whereas some are used for PvP, others are used for PvE. Then consider too, what your budget is. Because what I used to do to make my first million on ESO back when I was a complete scrub, I was probably like champion point 300, is I would not just list up sugar skulls. I probably would sell 400 at a time between 4 traders. What I would then do is I would buy the cheapest ones and then relist them on so that I was the cheapest in Mournhold, or at least I was a good stack price. I was fairly affordable. Because if you buy at a high stack price, not only are you removing that stack of 100, you're then giving yourself more product to move. You just have to be careful because obviously, there's a listing fee. I've actually already maxed out this trader, so I'll show you the listing fee. I've not maxed this one out. So say I wanted to sell this. This is for my other character. You can see that there's a listing fee and a house cut. Let's say I'm listing this for 10K. You can see it really starts to take about 8%. 1% for the listing, 8% or 7%, for the house cut. Now, why that's important is that's your profit margin. You can't just flip an item for a measly bit of money because you're going to end up losing money. Then you got to add on dues, and you really want to make sure that you're moving product. That's why it's important not to just sell just the same consumable. Try to diversify your portfolio as much as possible. And to recognize, too, you don't need to sell just consumables. Like, this is just a nice little passive stream of gold. You'll get some mail every so often. Bada bing, bada boom. I actually have 2 videos on where to find unlimited alchemy ingredients and where you can get unlimited ingredients for which sugar skulls. I think they were actually in the first 3 videos I ever produced, and I'll make sure that they're linked below. So that's going to be great for you guys to jump into and do. Now let's switch gears real quick and talk about alchemy. Same concept. You actually saw those potions sell earlier, and if you were to look at, let's just look up spell power, and then we are going to switch it to consumables, and you can see here that people are selling them for about a stack size of about 30K, which is honestly not super uncommon. It's not super uncommon, but you want to make sure that you've ticked off all the boxes. You want major sorcery for your magicka ones, obviously. You want major prophecy, you want restore magicka, and major intellect. And I'll post the combinations on screen of how to get those ingredient combinations, because it's not just, there's a couple ways you can do it. And it's the same with weapon power and then tri-stat. So we'll pull up a weapon power, same concept, except for some reason the stacks are a little less, but you could do that too. Although you can see that one's not selling. The common sell price for these, as we actually even saw earlier, I think was 12,500 for a stack. That was up to 25K during the last event where everything was doubled during the trial. So just keep that in mind when you're considering like what you're going to be doing and like what you're going to be selling and when. So if there's like a double trial, like say it's Sunspire or something along those lines, people are going to be buying these. So basically when you have the health ones, you're going to want health, food, or health, stamina, and magicka. As you can actually see here, that's exactly what this one does. And you also want the 30% increase to your recovery, which will come naturally to you. And then you'll have the ability to sell these. I would say that these probably sell more often. during PvP events. They sell more. Probably their values probably increase slightly right now because of the deathmatch kind of changes. So they'll be kind of used for a little bit. Also, too, we just had a patch that added a lot of new PvP sets and whatnot. So these are probably the ones that are going to sell the most. Bounties in Blackwood, I don't see changing potion prices a whole lot. Unless people really start farming Rock Grove, which, I mean, they should because it's a great trial set. But if they don't, you know, they'll probably kind of remain. They'll probably bump up a little bit, but they'll remain kind of mostly where they are. But other than that, I mean, those are the two main consumable pipe streams that you need to kind of succeed in ESO. I would say don't fill up again on, like, don't just sell 30 out of 30, you know, or 27 out of 30 for one thing. You know, break them up, stack them. Don't, you know, continue to sell other items for sets. Continue to sell, you know, motifs that you're getting, weapon pieces. Keep your traders diversified, but again, this is a great passive income, especially if you're doing those daily writs and you're getting a lot of these ingredients and they're just sitting in your box. Like, turn them into some sugar skulls, turn them into some takeaway broths, because then the profit margin for you is 100. You only dig into that profit margin when you have to buy part of the ingredients or you start buying other people's product to resell. But other than that, if you have questions, again, put them in the comments below. This is the first video I'm making since 2,000 subscribers, so I'm so thankful for you guys for that, and I am excited to see you guys in the next one, and I'll see you then.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jake Clips, or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.